just again, as a note, I'll drop the live stream here in the Zoom chat, and there's also a chat on the live stream page, so we can just keep an eye on both to see if people have any questions for us. But you're welcome, David, to get started whenever you like.
Sure. Welcome to everybody. Thanks very much for joining us. This, as the other David, the alphabetically superior David noted, this is very much just an open forum. The meetup, either indirectly or directly, is connected to a new special interest group with Hyperledger or at Hyperledger, dedicated specifically to issues of media and entertainment. So that's a consequence initially of the fact that I myself am faculty at UCLA. I'm in the humanities, between literature and musicology and digital humanities, etc. So it seemed to me that there was a space, a rather potentially productive space around Hyperledger to form a group like this. And we already have, well, very soon we'll have 40 members, which is great because, as you know, the bar is 15. So for a group that hasn't done anything, that's a very healthy start. And what I would like to do today is, first of all, to introduce Jerome and Ursula, but then, as David said, to open it up for discussion so that that group, logically, can focus its efforts on something very specific. You'll notice at the SIG, or the special interest group, there are already some working materials that I put up there. But seeing as Ursula and Jerome and I are only 3 people and we're already outnumbered, what we need to do is to find out really 2 things. One is where people currently think the state of play is with permission blockchains and with Hyperledger vis-a-vis media and entertainment. And then 2, focusing less on the present and more on the future, what could we do together? How can we help you guys, or how can we help each other build something that will actually unpack the potential for media and entertainment related applications on and around Hyperledger? So with that, what I'd like to do is to introduce, let's say, start with Ursula in Madrid, and then she can hand over to Jerome, and we'll open it up to see what you guys feel about those 2 issues, where Hyperledger stands today with regard to media and entertainment, and then maybe even simultaneously as part of the discussion, where should or could it go? So Ursula, would you like to join us?
Yes. Thank you, David and David. Because I'm thrilled to be part of this group, because I've been researching in this matter, especially in the media, in newsroom media, for the last 3 years. I've been part of civil media company as well. We've been experimented with the technology on Ethereum and with the cryptocurrency as well. We have had a big failure in New York City, the year 2018, with the token launch. That was super hard to get it. It was 44 steps just to get a single token. So that time we knew that we couldn't move forward with that crypto economy in journalism, because we had a lot of barriers, especially on the regulation side. But I still remain very bullish about the fact that I know that this technology, it could impact journalism. I'm a journalist myself. I've been working in the media industry for the last 20 years as a journalist at Reuters news agency and El País newspaper, which is one of the largest from Spain. And I've been involved most recently in tech media project. On the experimenting side still, because this is evolving, it's getting better, faster and cheaper, but we are not there yet. We're getting there, but not yet. We don't have the killer app yet. So I'm happy to hear, I'm happy to answer any question from everybody in this group, and happy to hear for what the rest has to say as well. So I pass the mic to Jerome.
Thank you, Ursula. Thank you, David and David, for your invite. So can you hear me? Okay, it sounds so. So I'm a musician, a telecommunications engineer. So I've been working for more than 20 years in the telecommunications and media and entertainment sector. I'm an entrepreneur. I founded Music Won't Stop in 2011. So at the beginning, it was a live music production company that diversified in 2013 by developing some consulting activities. Focused on the digital technology and strategy in media and entertainment activity sectors. And in 2015, I discovered blockchain technology as I was working on the value sharing in the music industry. I was making some studies on how content creators, producers, publishers, and distributors were linked all together by contracts, so legally binding contracts. And I tried to understand how these contracts could be chained all together. So I was working on a XML-based chaining system, so that I've totally dismissed when I discovered the Ethereum smart contracts. So this was really important this summer 2015 because this is the real moment where I said to the artist I was accompanying as a live music producer, I just said to them, so now I will not work with you anymore. I have to focus on this brand new technology. And trust me, it will be very useful for all the music industry in the coming years. So it was a big bet I did to focus and involve myself into this technology. So at the same time, end of 2016, from the Australia, there was a brand new standardization group which was starting with the TC 307 at ISO standardization. So I entered the standardization with the French national body at AFNOR, then ISO TC 307, and now at Senelec for the European standardization body. So I work today on designing some blockchain standards, worldwide standards, and it's really important to be able to make the link between international standards and an activity sector. And the activity sector which I'm focusing on today is clearly media and entertainment. So I'm really pleased to see that the Hyperledger project is now launches a special interest group on media and entertainment, and clearly I'm really glad to contribute to this group. Thank you.
Well, let me break the silence. Let me just find out what other people's opinions are. What do you think the current state of play is with Hyperledger in entertainment and media today? Are there any projects with which you're involved that you'd like us to know about? Or are there any projects constructed by other people that you think are worth our attention, either as positive models or maybe are negative examples of where we shouldn't be going? Because you'll notice on the special interest group, it's a very healthy combination of academics and scholars and business people and senior executives and students. So if there's anything that you would like to tell us about work that you're doing or work being done by other people, that would be really valuable raw fuel as we move towards and focus our efforts on a specific project of mutual benefit.
I can jump and then
Please.
Somebody else can add information as well. I'm working in payment projects because, as you know, just the whole media, music, news media, TV media, they're working in subscriptions because we need to find ways to get paid and not to give it for free. And that has been a big challenge during the last 3 years. We know one successful story, which is the New York Times on the traditional payment media. But on the crypto side, we've been having experiments, but right now we are seeing with the stable coin, something that we didn't see it before. We just had stable coin on the mainstream for the last 2 years. And one of the lack of successful project of this, because the cryptocurrency is too volatile. So I'm working on a specific project with Mexico and a big bank in Mexico. I can't kindly say it very loud because we're still evolving with this project. So that's why I'm trying to be very quiet. But it's something that we are in the experimental area. And I have seen some other, even the New York Times, they have a big project called the News Provenance Project on how to tackle pictures, especially in this area of fake news. And they're doing it with Hyperledger and IBM. And I don't know, because I have a former colleagues that are working on this project, and everything is still in the phase of experimented, trial and error. But it's still there. They've been with that project for a year and a half. And I think that they're going to come with something out of this.
If I can just very quickly interrupt, I was in contact with those guys recently, and the idea is that they will make it open source. So it will have the maximum benefit for the largest number of people. But the last time I spoke to them was about a month or so ago, and they said they're not quite ready. So yes, they are intending to make it publicly available, but by their own admission, the project has turned out to be more complicated than they thought.
No, it's incredible because they create trends, and if they're successful with that, we will see some other newsroom follow up the same project. So it's exciting to see it. Yes. And on the music side, I love music, and I have subscription to everything, to Spotify, to Apple Music, even Amazon, which I'm very sketchy with Amazon, but I still have that anyway. And I think that you guys have another challenge too, especially people that are in the music area, because subscription is big, and Spotify and all of these big tech companies are eating this cake. How are you going to handle? I mean, how are you going to combine this with the blockchain technology? Because this is super centralized. Spotify is eating the cake on podcasts, for example, not just music. Same thing with Apple. And both companies are extremely centralized. So how can we evolve with this and breaking up this Apple and share it?
Spotify is an interesting example because the small blockchain startup that they purchased wasn't or is not designed to, for example, use micropayments and help artists bypass Spotify, because that would then be a tool that would make Spotify itself redundant. It would be a streaming music platform without a central owner or central manager. But they're using blockchain to defend their activities in court cases where they're challenged by artists who doubt or dispute the payments that they've received. So, for example, Lady Gaga famously complained about the amount that she was getting for her millions of streams. And so Spotify, by implication, is guilty of this alleged malpractice. And Spotify is using this small blockchain startup to at least prove the number of streams that have been generated. So in that sense, they're using it in a rather sort of passive mode, but they're not intending to use it for anything resembling micropayments. When it comes to payments, I see already in the chat, we have Lisa. I don't know if you want to just say a few words, but you're asking whether or not anybody has experimented with tipping instead of charging. So instead of sorry, yeah, Lisa, are you there?
Sure. Yeah, my internet's a little slow, so sorry. But yeah, I come from a community called Crown, where we have the land of Crownlandia. But Crown is a rewards token, and we tip people all over the world for adding content in our Telegram group. And it works really well. So I was just curious if other people are considering that as a revenue model. I use it for virtual coffee and reward people instead of charging them, and they show up and consume messages and such. So, but it's at a relatively experimental scale. So I'm just curious if anyone's doing that at larger scale. And I see someone posted one already. So thanks to everyone, and thanks for.
I mean, my background, my alleged expertise is in, which what I teach is Eastern Europe. So that's a part of the world where obviously piracy is a huge problem. And I've seen tipping fail terribly. No one's interested because there are very easy ways to get the same media for nothing. But what type of people are being tipped? What artists of what status? Lisa?
Well, we try different things. Yeah, sorry, I'm here. It's just a little delayed because I'm in the mountains.
Okay. Right.
But we try different things, different micro experiments at a conceptual level. So to play a game, to post on a leaderboard, to come consume a message or participate in an event. And different ways, to encourage people tipping each other and getting more back. But with the token, we're essentially creating it out of thin air, and yet it still has value to many people. It can, in our case, be sold on the market, although I don't encourage or do that necessarily. But and so people have told me around the world, in Africa and Turkey and Venezuela and the Philippines and others, that $3 a day makes a big deal to their life. So many people are willing to learn and do something, and try something new. So the latest thing is creating, NFT cards. And a lot of people are saying, how do I do that? How do I do that? And then other people in the community are purchasing their cards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting. There's like someone that wants to go to nursing school and is taking care of his family in Africa, and in his spare time trying to figure out how to make these cards. And these are really heartwarming stories, and I think they're scalable if you do other experiments and learn. So I'm really excited to be here to thanks to JT for inviting me, but to get to share this story with you and hear from all of you. Feel free to find me to brainstorm more on Lisa Chandler on any of the
But your connection is fading in and out. If you could drop your contact in the chat, that would be really useful.
I think that Lisa brought up something interesting, which is NFT. That's something that is getting bigger nowadays, especially in the arts and some sports. But it could be worth it for media as well. And I don't know how that is going to be evolving this year. I think it's going to be crucial to see it, because we see hypes and downs. But I think that NFT has matured enough. They're coming from the CryptoKitty era in 2017. We had a big hype, but it was a good experiment at the same time. So on the tipping side and the payment side, I think that could be interesting to follow up projects on the NFT. And I see here in this chat as well, Sebastian Posch. I think that he's the same person that I know, that he's been working on the publishing side, researching on the blockchain. Sebastian, raise your hand if you're there. Maybe it would be nice to hear what you've been doing the last years on the blockchain side, on publishing companies as well.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thanks for giving me the word. I mean, there are a lot of projects that I've been involved over the last 4 years. I would just like to mention one project that started 4 years ago when we considered what to do with blockchain in the media industries. We thought that it doesn't make sense to think about decentralized structures and transactions in decentralized networks when we don't have the ability to unambiguously identify content in these decentralized network. So content identification that is not bound to a centralized authority that would connect the asset actually with the metadata to it. That was the point. So we worked on an identifier called the ISCC, the International Standard Content Code. And Jerome, you mentioned the ISO work in TC 306, and I would like to raise awareness of an identifier. I can post it here in the chat. Which is currently there's a working group on ISO TC46 SC9. Working group 18 is on the ISCC, the International Standard Content Code, and it's about decentralized identification of digital media assets. And that was is, I think, a huge benefit if parties that don't have an agreement with each other, that don't have a relationship with each other, are able to come up with an identifier which is generated from the digital media asset itself. And it could identify all media formats like video, audio, text, or images. And from there, you could set up all kinds of applications that you could think of in terms of offering, creating NFTs or payment models or incentivizations or attaching metadata to this ISCC code. So I wanted to, or I'm grateful that I could bring up and link to the ISCC specification website. It's all open sourced. It's everyone can make use of the software that is provided on GitHub, and so that might be of interest to the working group.
Jerome, you've had your hand up for ages.
Thank you. I'm really great to see Sebastian project, because I followed it through the ISO project. We saw this ISCC identifier arriving. Having a generic identifier is really important, and a good example is the live music video, because the live music video is an audiovisual content, so it is supposed to be an audiovisual identifier like ISAN, but it's also sometimes a recorded music. So it's also behind a recorded music identifier, so the ISRC. And there is nothing that makes the link between the ISAN and the ISRC. So two identifiers are not linked together. So this is important to follow this kind of initiative raised by Sebastian. And there is a good example, which is today based on Hyperledger Fabric. It's the experiment by three copyright organizations. So the French one, SACEM, the English one, PRS for music, and the US one, which is ASCAP. They wanted to make the link between the recorded music, the one you listen to on Spotify or Deezer, and the author identifier, so for rights management. So you have to, when you listen to some music on these platforms, the copyright organizations have to find what is the musical work behind the recorded music. So they have to link two identifiers with two centralized databases. There is a producer's database about the recorded music identifiers, and you have the copyright organizations database about the works identifiers. So what they decided is to put some couples of identifiers between the recorded music and the musical work in a smart contract, a chain code in Hyperledger Fabric. So what was good was that from two centralized databases, you could get a distributed one. So it was an interesting project launched by SACEM. And I take the opportunity also about to share with you, and based on Lisa's comment on the business model. So what is really interesting with the blockchain technology is that you have to rethink and redesign all your business model. So it's a real change of paradigm. You can propose some disintermediation. You can end with advertising-based offers. You can end a subscription-based offers, and you can build exactly what the consumer is consuming. And this is interesting because this has an impact on business processes. And we are talking about rights management processes. There is a really good example that I've really loved in end of 2015. It was a Yujo Music example with Imogen Heap. This was the first time that an artist who was owning all her rights could put a song on a platform. The song was called Tiny Human, and some people could stream or download the song, and straight away, thanks to an Ethereum smart contract, all the contributors to this song could be paid immediately. So this was really, really interesting. And so this, of course, this challenges all the current business models of the big platforms. And I think that it's an opportunity to design a more user-centric business model. So you have the legacy business model, which is managed by the platform with typically royalty payment, copyright payment, neighboring right payments, and you could add on to avoid the long tail effect. That means that small artists who are never listened to and are never get paid. If you put a tipping system in addition to this legacy system, I think you can increase the value sharing with the artist. So thank you.
But this is super interesting, Jerome, because lately, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read the news that Bob Dylan was selling all of the rights of his music. And I think right now, the rights of the music could be like a store value in many ways for a lot of musicians. So that's a new business model for a musician as well, for the future as well, to tokenize all of that.
Yeah, it's not just Bob Dylan. It's several people all of a sudden over what appears to be.
I read Bob Dylan.
It was Stevie Nicks did it. Neil Young did it. There are some other people who don't come to mind, but some, what we call legacy acts who have just in one explosion just released all of their material for commercial use, or released it into the hands of one organization. So I put a link to the Imogen Heap. So she's a British singer, an English singer. I put a link in the chat, which is what Jerome was talking about. That's quite a while ago now. That's about what, four years ago or something that she released that single. There are some contrary arguments. There is an article, the exact title of which I can't remember, but it's something like why I found it so hard to download Imogen Heap's track, or with the problems with her release. So what she has in London is this organization, Mycelia for Music, 2015, thank you. Yeah, so 6 years ago. Mycelia for Music is more of an educational project, and those guys, as Jerome mentioned, they work on Ethereum. I, in fact, had her as an invited speaker to UCLA. So their main purpose is one of enlightenment rather than actually construction. If we could loop back very quickly to the NFTs that Ursula was talking about, has anybody had any experience with £40,000? Wow, I've heard very different figures. I see. Okay, thanks to inflation, basically. Has anybody worked with NFTs successfully or unsuccessfully on Hyperledger? Yes, NFTs on Wax. Lisa, did you want to jump back in again? You appear to be the wise woman of the web at the moment.
Wow, I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's if you go to Wax, and I'll get you the and Atomic Assets, which is based on wax. I'll post the link here in a second. You too can create NFTs, and you can copy how other people do it and see, but it's less hard than you think. So take your favorite art or photos and go set one up.
What I've seen with music is,
While you're there,
yeah, go on, please.
feel free to play Alien World, which is a game which I'm into. Once you have your login, and it's based on NFT cards. And it's, in my opinion, you know, I've been a community engagement revenue marketing person for a very long time. And when I see this, I think this is something you look at the, if you're so inclined while you're on Wax, you can look at Market or Marketplace and see what some people think these cards are worth.
What I've seen, sorry,
10,000 players. Yeah, in 4 weeks, there's actually, it's 11,000 players as of today.
What I've seen done interestingly with audio and NFTs has sort of moved in two directions, one of which is impressive and one of which is not. The unimpressive one is creating something akin to a baseball card. So it might just be a photograph, for example, attached to an audio file. Those don't strike me as being particularly interesting, but when an audio artist has worked together with a visual artist, creating a GIF or a GIF, depending on where you come from, that has a sense of greater uniqueness and greater appeal. So to my mind, the greatest potential for NFTs is when the audio is bundled together with the work by somebody working in a parallel or a kindred media format.
You could also back an NFT. So let's say an NFT exists. Essentially, it's a numbered image. You can back it with wax, which means you're essentially adding currency value to that image. And if someone burns it, that wax currency token shows up in their account. And so some people don't want their NFTs to get burnt, but it does increase the rarity of it. Some people will send to one specific. So it's quite an interesting, this is all this like within the past year too. That this
yeah. So to your mind, this would be so to your mind, would the NFTs be a fruitful avenue of investigation?
Yeah,
Lisa?
I would, if you have any questions, about it, go on to WAC and go onto the Atomic Hub where you can create the NFTs and search for an island on Veles. There's 26 islands. I'll just put this so you see what I'm saying.
Lisa, but are those virtual islands?
I believe.
Are those virtual islands or real ones?
Yes. Yes, it's a numbered picture, and it in the game it means you earn.
Yep.
So there are people. Someone just told me yesterday, in the past month, I think he made $35,000 or something. I mean, I guess everyone's different, but I've never seen anything like this. So this is, and we talk about scalable. It's so fast. People are getting in, and people have told me they're not working, doing other things anymore. It's a game, but it's now their day.
Yeah.
And it's because of these cards, these smart contracts.
Jerome and Sebastian, you both have your hands up. Who would like to go first?
I just wanted to comment on the NFT. I only yesterday had a conversation with the largest platform called OpenSea.io. It's a where you usually would only find visual arts and other categories in these in the visual arts. And I was wondering, or I was directly asking them whether it would be possible to use it for books and digital books, electronic books. And they said that they will unlock a feature that they actually call unlockable assets, where you could generate NFT for music, for EPUB, ebooks, and put them on OpenSea, which has a couple of benefits. First, it's a well-working platform that is well designed and with great customer support and all these things that you would need. But it's also possible to include these NFTs into the author website or into the publisher's website. So, and once that token has been auctioned or sold, it will send a URL where the identity that purchased the asset could download it. And the advantage of NFTs is, in this special case, also that you would have the opportunity to generate a secondary market, a legal secondary market for these NFTs. Because if you have assets like a song for 99 cents, and it makes sense, but if you have books where you purchase that you pay 20 euros or US dollar for a digital asset, it might make sense after reading it to resell it through the blockchain. So I would say that there's a huge potential for NFTs also in other media categories than you would currently see on especially OpenSea and Super Rare, which are seeing like a craze, I would almost say. If you there's an artist called Beeple that sold NFTs for 6 figures each over the last month and weeks. It's a huge money flowing into that category, and that also helps, of course, to that people start using MetaMask wallets to get familiar with these kind of things, or other projects that make it much simpler to deal with the payment processes than generating a crypto wallet. I would just like to refer to a project called magic.link. It's an amazing project where you can generate a wallet with your email address, like a private public key pair with your email address only, and it works excellent. So these are the steps that we need to get to the tokenization of the industries, especially music and books. I would see a lot of potential. And if I may add one thing to what Jerome said, so I think there are reasons why this is happening now. And it's not only the Spotify problem that you mentioned, where it's not obviously not possible to connect ISRCs, the record codes and the work codes, in order to remunerate the songwriters, which is a problem. But there's also two other momentum. One is the aspect of fake news and content authenticity. And Ursula, you mentioned the New York Times, and they are heavily involved in the Adobe content authenticity initiative, which I would also like to mention, because it's the industry, or they try to build a consortium to support content authenticity and fight fake news. And the other thing is the European Directive on Copyright, with the famous Article 17, which we will see how it will be implemented in June 2021, in 4 months or 5 months, which will require online platforms to verify user-generated content, whether they would infringe copyright. And it's not enough to wait for takedown notices. So that will be a huge effort. And in this constellation, I think it's necessary to have a decentralized registry where rights holders of any media types can register their content, verifiably attach metadata and rights management information to the content, in order for the platforms to actually be operative. So this is, I think, a huge decentralization is, in my personal opinion, the only way forward, because otherwise you have the situation that is currently evolving a bit, that you have one centralized rights clearing service, which is YouTube. So, but that for each industry, for books, for photographers, for videos, for records, and that's probably what's going to happen unless there is a way for the national, let's say, the music industry in the UK, the book publishers in Germany, that they find their service providers where they can register the stuff to put it on the blockchain, so that platforms can decentrally access and verify the data that is being pushed forward. So I think that is the directive on copyright is a huge like pro to focus on decentralization in the media industries.
Sebastian, if you could post that magic link to the chat, that'd be
Yes.
great. Jerome, you were next, and then Ursula. And I would like to loop back after that to Paul Sweeting, who's posted a couple of interesting links. Jerome.
Yeah, it's important to focus on the metadata which are addressed by Sebastian. So the metadata is the data behind each creative work or production. And what is important to say is that any country or any platform tries to build the most exhaustive metadata database as possible. But they all meet the same issue. It's harmonizing the metadata, disambiguizing the metadata, because especially in the classical music, the name of the song are very long, and sometimes some of them are shortened, and then it's really difficult to link the recorded music metadata title to the copyright. And so it's a very good work which was done in the last 10 years in France. There were at least 10 startups who tried to set up the biggest music database, and most of them somehow failed, because the question was not to build the biggest centralized database, but the question and the point was to build the most harmonized and disambiguous database, but a decentralized database. And this is here that blockchain technology is very useful. And to do that, what will be very important is to bear in mind that the human people cannot remove ambiguity on the metadata. And there are many machine learning tools that start to do that today. And for this purpose, I do think that blockchain technology will be clearly linked to some machine learning process to set up the biggest decentralized database of any content metadata.
Ursula?
Yes, well, it's kind of go back to the NFT thing, because I think that NFT could be a game changer for sure. I'm just trying to wait to see what's going to happen this year. But on the NFT things, I was thinking, what about I mean, if I use NFT as a writer, as a journalist, because I've been working for Facebook for free, giving all of my content, my former newspaper, they've been sharing all of my content to Facebook, and with it received zero. Now the big platform, they give grants to several media companies, but that's not enough. So I'm thinking, what about if as a writer, I create an NFT of my work, and then this work goes to a social platform? Will I receive any payment out of that? If so, it's going to be a huge game changer in anything, for writers, for musicians, for any content creator. So I think that it is a big thing, and it's something that we need to be watching because it's still in early phase, but we have seen interesting projects, as Jerome was mentioning, and Liz as well, and even you, David. And for me, stable coin are the big game changers on NFT as well, because past NFT, they were on Ethereum and some in Bitcoins, and they were too volatile. Right now with stable coin, we can have that secure of those tokens. So yes, I'm very bullish about what's about to come.
Paul, if we could jump to you quickly, you've posted a couple of interesting links. What's your experience been with Alt Market, which you say is a company experimenting with music artist branded tokens? We can't quite hear you yet. I think your audio's.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Fantastic.
Alt Market is a company that is started by a kind of a strange guy named Bryce Wiener. He was attempting to, create a market for artist-branded tokens, coins. They weren't actually NFTs, but the first one he issued was from Young Dirty Bastard, who's the son of Old Dirty Bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan. It has not been successful, really. He's kind of moved on, although he's, you can still go to Alt Market. It's essentially a token exchange. And then he was, issuing some himself with artists in conjunction with artists. The idea was to try to monetize fandom as it, rather than monetizing content, to create a medium of exchange that artists could use to engage with their fans, or in the case of Young Dirty Bastard, posthumously, because ODB is deceased. My main interest in joining this discussion today is that I run something called the Rights Tech Project, and we produce the Rights Tech Summit conferences. And, our focus is on technology innovation around rights management and monetization. And in the course of that, we've had a number of blockchain projects involved in our conferences. But our focus is less on sort of the consumer-facing aspect of it, tipping or NFTs, and more on the business-to-business applications of blockchain. And there are, a number of those that, we started Rights Tech in 2016, and we sort of followed the curve. There was at that time there was quite a lot of interest. You could even say hype. Around possible blockchain uses, consumer-facing blockchain applications in the media industry. A lot of those did not meet expectations, and blockchain sort of became a little bit of a dirty word, but it's now become, there's now growing interest again around B2B applications in the media industry. So, I'm, interested in companies like Verify Media, which used to be .blockchain. They've started to get some real buy-in from the industry in the music industry. Companies like there's a company in New York and in London called Film Chain, which is using blockchain and cryptocurrency to manage back-end payments for film projects, because there are all kinds of there are a lot of people involved in making a film, and the the money flows are complex and opaque, and they've had some success, bringing a measure of transparency and speed to the process of paying all the people that need to get paid at different times. They have a partnership with, forgetting the name of the organization, Sebastian, perhaps you might know, it's the German Film Producers Association. By the way, hi, Sebastian. It's been a while since our paths crossed, but it's good to see you. So, we've been looking at blockchain applications for a while across all different media sectors. There's a lot going on in the fine arts world of issuing certificates of authentication in order to track provenance. We've worked with some of the folks that Ursula was referring to earlier around efforts to use blockchain in a journalism context. So I was just interested in joining this discussion to say hi to everyone, and maybe there's some way that that this group and our group could collaborate on something.
That's really great. In fact, that's the essence of getting together today, is to turn a lot of these, well, disparate's the wrong word, but variegated ideas and trajectories and problems, and then funnel them into the working group, so the working group actually becomes a group that works and makes something of general / common benefit. So hearing your viewpoint is really important. On a slightly more fundamental level, in various senses of the word, someone's screaming Trump, I'm not quite sure. Oh no, it's Pence. Is it, who's responsible for that? There we go. Somebody, I think, was streaming on their phone and decided that Pence was not more. Actually, that whose song is that? Is that Bachman Turner Overdrive or something? But anyway, even during that campaign, Trump and Pence were often accused of, not accused, but used songs that didn't belong to their campaign, weren't cleared for public use, and so on. So maybe even in that chance clip, there was a tangential reference to issues that could be solved by blockchain. Ben Taylor, on a slightly more fundamental interest, did you want to rant, as you said, about electricity and usage? You still with us, Ben? He's dropped off. 1 second. It seems like a sort of looks like Zoom bombing. Could be. I can think of sort of more dangerous things to Zoom bomb with, but if that's as bad as it gets, then we're probably okay. Jerome, is your hand still up, or is that a lingering avatar?
No, I'm sorry, it's not up anymore.
Oh, okay. One extra thing I wanted to ask about, has anybody had any good experience with track and trace systems? Or with micropayments?
No, I've been experimenting with micropayments when we were at Civil. We created 18 newsrooms on crypto economy in the US. One of them, it's very successful, Colorado Sun, which is based in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And they tried to work on micropayments at the beginning, and it was a failure. It was slow and expensive. By the way, Civil was part of Consensus, which was part of Ethereum. So everything that we were doing, it was on Ethereum. And we had a lot of bottlenecks. But that was almost 3 years ago. So the technology wasn't too ready yet. It was more like an experimenting thing. But right now, on payments, I have seen Lightning Network. I haven't used it myself, but some people that I know that they've been using Lightning, and they say it's the best channel for payments so far. No, not directly. No.
Lisa, not surprisingly, is a source of even more useful information. For those of you who aren't reading the chat, she says, we give micropayments in Telegram by replying to posts with tips. They show up instantly and can be withdrawn by the recipient. Lisa, do you want to say anything about that? I mean, Telegram is something I know quite a bit about because it has Russian roots. So, you know, all the work of Pavel Durov with Kontakte and some Russian social networks and so on. But over and above that, Lisa, what do you want to say about using Telegram?
You can come in and see what I mean if you want. Come to Crown Token and say hi, and I'll reply with a tip and where you can go check your tip. It functions as a wallet, but it's really thin. So one of the Crown founders worked with one of the guys who built Blocks, which reports on, you know, allows you to see all the blockchain data, to create this tip bot.
Did you have the problem?
You have 100 people. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Ursula said she had two problems, which were bottlenecks and general slowness. Is that something you experienced?
Never, ever. The big problem in Telegram is authentication that it's the person you want it to be. So in the communities where we know each other and recognize each other, it's easy, but sometimes people will come in and set up multiple profiles, which isn't really an issue for us, because if they want to have multiple profiles to get enough, when they start posting a lot of nonsense, that, you know, it's a problem. But there are many people working on this, you know, validation of personhood, such as I posted earlier, Voice and Hive. To get on the Voice platform, I had to upload my ID, so you know it's me. And of course, on those you earn for your post, you know, the opposite of like what you were saying about Facebook. And there are new all the time. But that's the big. And this is in part why I'm so public about who I am, so that you really know it's me. You know how to check. You can go find it.
Jerome, you wanted to say something about beer.
Yes, maybe this is because it is time for having a beer in France now. No, I was just referring to the Synapse Festival, which I was following, and especially the team who was in charge of designing the blockchain solution for making this payment. So when you were paying a beer at the Synapse Festival, you were able to spread a part of the money to the artist, to the staff, and so on. So it was really interesting solution. And what I remember is that they migrated twice or three times of blockchain systems, because between each edition of this yearly festival, there was an increase in the transaction fees, and this had a really strong impact on the payments. So that's just to say some words about this festival. So I've put in the chat some links if you want to get more information.
Has anybody done any much work or even hired people on the UX UI front? Just because it seems to, it doesn't seem to me, it seems quite obvious that the entry into Fabric is not an easy one, and given the complexity of its engineering, of its architecture, it struck me that one of the biggest barriers to widespread adoption was the lack of a simple user interface. Has anybody experienced with that in terms of a media or entertainment project simply being made simple? Or is graphic design not something that we've had any experience with here?
I have for about the last 2 years been looking into the media and entertainment industry and blockchain, mostly from an accounting and a business legal tech perspective. But it evolved into a self-tokenization, a view from a self-tokenization, meaning that all participants in a production, say, become actual investors in that production by way of being paid in some type of crypto asset, and then reinvesting that in any amount, be it $1 or $1,000. One of the big things is the adoption of that and the ease of that adoption, as you pointed out, David, making it really easy and lubricate the process of getting on a system and on a blockchain, abstracting away all the technology into something that's very simple. Identity is a big problem. Finding that right identity solution and integrating it into a blockchain, making it legal to use a certain crypto asset as part of a production from a union perspective, from a financing perspective. But basically, it is the first stumbling block to taking the project, taking any project into the wild and making it easy to use, making it accepted because it's easy to use. So my intention is to work with Hyperledger Fabric as the blockchain, and Ethereum, but payments, royalties, things of that nature, mostly with respect to contracts and things like that. I'm sort of all over the place here, but it's gone from a chain of title, which is basically securing the rights for distribution, into having every single person, from the cameraman to the electrician to the coat check person, as a benefactor of the success of a project by either reinvesting or by taking some type of royalty from the success. So that's my view.
That's great, Jerome. Is this a new hand, or is it the old hand that won't go away?
Yeah, you're right. I just discovered that my hand was always on. Sorry, I have to remove it at some times. I'm thinking about. Sorry, I won't reply about Hyperledger Fabric. The only thing I know is that the copyright organization projects. So with these 3 copyright organizations, were just wondering, I think it was by end of 2018, about the scalability of the solution, because putting 2 identifiers in a chain code on Hyperledger Fabric was really time consuming, and they expected to put tens of million couples of identifiers. So maybe it was not the best solution. I would like to come back on one of Ursula's concern when publishing articles, and to come back to Lisa typing model. there is a solution which is called Steam It, which allows publishing an article and getting some tips when published. And if we come back to you, David McFadden, question about micropayment, maybe there is an opportunity with blockchain technology to make some micropayment which could be based on a page view. So if your article is 5 pages, and if you really you just read 2 out of 5 pages, maybe you could have the possibility with some good smart contracts to tip only for 2 pages or something like that, and to make some very good micropayments. So what is good, and I would be ready to do that as a consumer. I would be ready to pay 10 cents for every page I read on a newspaper, rather than giving 12 euros or dollar a month to a newspaper. So we could imagine some kind of models like that, which would be based on the number of pages, but we could also go deeper. Because with smartphone now we are very good at accuracy. We can know that if an article is 300 words, if you only read 55 words, you could pay with micropayment only for these 55 words. And what is the good news with blockchain technology is that you can pay below 1 cent of euro or dollar. If you want to pay 0.0001 euro, you can do it. So that's the good news, and it's a real opportunity for micropayment. Thank you.
I mean, Jerome, I think what you're saying, I mean, also has a potentially substantial significance for parts of the world where freedom of speech is an issue. So if you can imagine a country, and I'm sure we can all imagine countries like this, where media is centralized, it's government controlled, or it's substantially biased towards government viewpoints, newspapers and magazines and television stations are very difficult entities with which to with which a journalist can express his or her opinion freely, right? Because a magazine will have editorial control, a television station will have a state mandate. So being able to subscribe to journalists individually, as opposed to subscribing to an entire journal or magazine, has both financial positive potential for the journalist, because they'll get paid directly, but also for their ability to operate as individual voices, as opposed to having to join some larger organization, which may or may not have a politically inclusive editorial policy. Sebastian, you just pointed links to COIL and webmonetization.org. Would you like to give a bit of context?
Yes.
Just explain what they are.
Yeah, web monetization is basically, as far as I understood, it's only 2 weeks ago since I discovered it and saw it in action. So it's a way that is similar to Brave. If you can have a wallet and then you put some money in it, and if you if you are on websites and spend time on it, you will see that there will be money paid, micropayments being paid, money streamed to the owner of the websites. And COIL, as far as I understand, is the software or the service that is where you can register. And web monetization is a kind of it says on the website it's being proposed as W3C standard for web. So it seems to be something that is interesting, and I saw it on a website, which is pretty cool. If you see some kind of how much microcents you will spend on while being on a website and consuming some media. So that just as something that I discovered as an alternative to Brave.
Yep. Ursula.
Yes, just wanted to finish with this because I need to leave after this. But yes, David, you brought up an important issue because I did been working with newsrooms in Venezuela and in Cuba. especially with Joanny Sanchez. She's a very famous, well-known blogger from Cuba. I'm sorry, and we did try to upload her content on the blockchain because the Cuban government was touching her webpage day yes and day yes, like every single day. And so she was tired of that. And we did try it, but it was too expensive to upload all of the content on the blockchain. I'm telling you on Ethereum. I don't know, I haven't tried any other blockchain besides Ethereum in that regard. So yes, that's something I think that's gonna be big, especially on the store of content. And let's see how IPFS is gonna be evolving, which is getting bigger and bigger. So I have a lot of faith on what IPFS could be done this year and the year to come. And the other side was something that I wanted to mention. I forgot about this. Anyway, in the micropayments. I think that this is the endless conversations that we've been having on every single media, because we have seen the rise of bundles. So on Apple Music, it wasn't successful with paying for a single song. Spotify came with the whole package, with the streaming package, and Apple Music was left behind. So it's something that we need to pay attention and to see how this is going to be evolving with the years, because people may want to have bundles instead of just a single article, just a single song. So I think that we should find solutions in that regard as well.
We're sort of moving towards the last 15 minutes of the chat. So for me, I think what I'd like to see are some initial concrete suggestions for the special interest group regarding what should we build? Where would you like the special interest group to go? What would you like to see it do that would help both you and hopefully some other people in the market as well? Anybody have any suggestions there? Susan is on her phone and jumping up, and something's shaking. Susan, yeah, we can't quite hear you yet.
Hey, I'm thrilled to meet this group. Actually, I'm a longtime blockchainer, and I work. I'm on the board of Global Women in Blockchain, but I actually am launching a thin air platform that's been under development for quite some time. It's a next generation 5G MPEG-5 video streaming platform for the media and entertainment industry. We're well on our way. It's an integrated platform. I'd love to share it with everybody and show you what we're doing. And I'd love to, it's going to be an open, decentralized cloud services platform that empowers content creators with their own projects. So it's very decentralized and it has blockchain as a through line through it. So it's using the games model as a monetization model to introduce new revenue streams. We're starting with a project in the music industry, but it's for filmed entertainment media, all creators. So I'd love to share it with the group. I'm not just kind of taking that out as a commercial thing. It's under development and we're working in an open way with a lot of different technology providers to integrate the system. So I'd be happy to share it with everybody and show you what we're doing.
If you can put a link to it in the chat, that'd be fantastic.
I will do that.
Thank you very much. So what should we make? What should we do? Where should we go and how should we do it?
I think that first of all, as a decentralized group, we need to have someone who can put order to this as well. So I don't know if you, David, would like to take the lead of the group. I think that you're the right fit for this.
Sure, I'm happy to sort of, yeah, I mean, to go back to Russia again, which is what I have to do professionally. Yes, I'll play the Stalinist role and just tell everyone else to do it.
I'm not calling you Stalin.
Okay. Lisa, would you want to say a word or two about the DAC?
Sure. A DAC is a decentralized autonomous community, and probably all of you know that. So forgive me for stating what you may know, but I've really been enjoying being involved in DACs the past couple of years. Crown DAC is the first DAC on the EOS.io platform and chain other than EOS.io. So we've gotten to see it evolve, and we use EOS DAC's DAC Factory software to allow custodians to be elected and for members to vote on proposals, and for people who want to work on projects to submit proposals to get awarded tokens. And we created MetaDAC, which is to educate people about DACs, and we're hosting DACathon Gaming mid-March. I'm not sure if the promotion is up yet at dacathon.com, but it is coming, and I believe we will be sneak preview giving an award to Alien World and seeing from other DAC games and creating some DACs. So there are quite a few people who would like to set up DACs, who are going to sort of join together to walk through the process of creating the Constitution and setting up the whole thing. So, you know, if the group or anyone else has an interest in becoming a candidate for custodian or doing a proposal to do a project in one of the DACs to see how it works, feel free to join. The event goes over 2 weeks, so there's a hackathon period. Even if you don't know how to code, you can participate and meet some of the world's greatest blockchain engineers, as well as people interested in community engagement. So there's my DAC promotion. Okay. C'est bon.
That's good. Yeah. So is there a link that would help people familiarize themselves? Hackathon.com, fantastic. I mean, there's a text that I produced that is in David B's hands, which hasn't gone up yet, which suggests at least the outline of what we might do. And as you can imagine, because we've all come up with some really great use scenarios, most of these are actually for working projects. Something that I'm particularly interested in is this issue of simplification. How can we produce a commonly or widely mutually beneficial platform that makes Fabric easy to use? Something that could then be applied to a lot of these things that we've talked about, whether it's journalism or ebooks or what else have we had come up? Gaming. As somebody who's worked their way into the coding community from zero, I mean, my background is is Russian literature, so that's not terribly useful. I think that what we could certainly do to amplify and promote a lot of the projects we're already working on is to build a play platform that could be used by a wide number of us. Has anybody else got, surely there are some wish lists, there are some things that people would like us to build that could, for example, incorporate technology you're already working on. And this conversation will clearly continue on the listserv. There's no reason why we couldn't do it on the DAC. I mean, hell, we could do it on TikTok and insist that every time somebody posts an idea, they have to come up with a dance. I mean, there are lots of exciting ways that we can continue to work together. But what would people like us to do? Because you have at your disposal a lot of very gifted people, and I don't include myself in that group. Jerome has a wish.
Yes, please. Thank you. So I would be very interested to address the interoperability of Hyperledger-based solutions. I mean, if I come back to the rights management of copyright by these two organizations I've already talked about, they were based on Hyperledger Fabric. So this is one thing. But the Canadian copyright organization, which is called the XOCAN, has worked with Hyperledger Sawtooth and Dot Blockchain Media to set up another system. But this means that with four copyright organizations, we have already 2 blockchain solutions. So what could be interesting is to address the way they could all interoperate using different version of the Hyperledger project. Thank you.
If I remember correctly, I think Verify Media uses Sawtooth. Is that correct? Do you know?
I would say that the SOCAN, the Canadian copyright organization, has set up a project with the Intel Hyperledger Sawtooth, and Dot Blockchain Media was involved in this project. So I don't know where they are now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because Dot Blockchain became Verify. Basically, that would make a lot of sense. Sebastian and Susan, you both have your cameras on. Is that yes? Sebastian even has a finger up. So
yes. What I discovered over the last month was that it's extremely important to associate the 2 aspects. One would be the, let's say, the media trade and the monetization aspects of that. But the other thing where I think Hyperledger is the leading technology platform, I think on Hyperledger Indy, all the standards on self-sovereign identity and decentralized identifiers, where there's a lot of things going on at the moment. At least in the projects in Germany, there are a huge number of projects that are dealing with self-sovereign identity, and the aspects of identity is crucial if you are not only content identification, but also the identity of the entity that makes a claim to content. And we see the problem with NFTs on platforms like SuperRare or OpenSea, where people screen grab content that is not created by them, and then they create an NFT on an immutable chain with some privacy concerning assertions to it. So there are a lot of legal problems and legal issues around the connection between content media business and decentralized identity and self-sovereign identity for, on the one hand, individuals, but also for entities. And so there are interesting projects around that, also working with another standard, which is another identifier, which is the legal entity identifier, LEI, which is taking care of generating decentralized identities for companies to authenticate unambiguously and verifiably authenticate themselves. But that the aspect of decentralized identity is, for at least in my opinion, the most crucial blocker for adoption of any kind of trade.
where are we now? Oh, it's only 5 minutes left. I'll tell you what, let's ask for, oh, Susan, did you want to say something? No, she's shaking her head. Oh, so
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry I jumped on late and I can't send the link. So if there are some emails, I'd love to send you guys some stuff, because we've been building this for a while and it is really a next generation. I think everything you guys just said, it is going to be using Hyperledger. And there's a lot of different aspects that's already been laid down, right? It's been years in the making. I have to say it's the third evolution of this thing since, and I think both of the comments, you know, it all has to have self-sovereign identity management. It has to have a tokenomics model underneath it. We have that. Like, we're working with the spatial web also. There's a company out here in California called the Verses that are doing a new, if you haven't ever heard of them, they're a strategic partner. I've been working with them for 3 years. They are building out a whole governance model that kind of takes it to the third evolution of the internet, the spatial web. So it's a 3-dimensional rights management platform. and it integrates Hyperledger into it. So I think I should show it to the group at some point, because maybe you haven't seen it, but it would really mash up with everything you guys are saying.
What was the name of that organization?
So the company, my company is called Lionshare Media, and we're building the Thin Air platform. The company and I'll send all you the links. The third company is a company called Versus, VERSES, and Versus, and they're actually going to go public shortly. But they're creating a new hyperspace transport layer that allows you to interconnect. They're like creating a digital twin of the world, and that includes a lot of rights management. And so I think we could kind of share this with you. And also, we're also kind of integrating other new technologies like MPEG-5 video streaming, which is kind of a whole other thing that's got to go on. So there's a lot of infrastructure that has to be put in. And one of the theses of this kind of platform is to make, and we're starting with the music industry, not film, because the audio streaming has really killed the entire business model of artists. And so this idea is to give every artist their own new digital format that replaces the album with, like, we call it the project. And the project is a next generation format that's really very blockchain enabled. It has every aspect to it, including advertising and, engagement. So I think when you pose the question, it's a magical question for me, because yes, I'm building a platform. Would I love brilliant people to it's an open kind of platform for, ultimately the idea is, can we open it up for the conversation for everybody to kind of take a look at it?
Jerome and Ursula, did you want to make a couple of closing comments?
Nothing in particular. I think that the guest, the participant of this group, Lisa, you, Susan, and all of them has been very interesting. It's a feedback cycle of knowledge, which I think is one of the purpose of this group. And not in particular, I would love to know if we are going to have monthly meetings, work sections. I think that because with that knowledge, I can program myself and to understand and how to contribute the best as well, so we can all organize. We are here in Europe, part of this group. You guys are in California, so is in another side of the world. So if we are very well organized, there's a lot of projects, there's a lot of things going on right now, and I think that we all can tackle together everything and to put it in order. So no.
Great. Yeah, Jerome has just reminded us that the plan is to do meetings every 2 weeks. At what time, we haven't quite decided. So yeah, I'm on the west coast of the States, but obviously that's supremely inconvenient for people, let's say, in Asia. So we're going to find a time that's mutually beneficial. But in terms of how often, every 2 weeks is the current plan, which I understand is how most of the special interest groups work anyway. Jerome, any words of wisdom?
So no, I'm very happy to share with all of you, and I discovered that some people on the bridge are sharing the same interest that we have. So there are many topics we have in common. So sometimes it looks like digression to talk about LEI or LEI, sorry, and SSID, but everything is linked. So when you worked on media and entertainment, you have to identify the common the companies and so on. So it's very good. So I'm really happy to participate to this group, and I hope we will be able to produce very interesting content.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So I think the plan is, as you can imagine, to take all of these ideas, all of these links, and turn them into something, 2 words, something that will be of mutual benefit. So what that is going to involve, as you can imagine, is one of us, let's say I do it, just trying to synthesize what everybody has described as good, bad, or potential projects into one concept for what we might do together, and then we'll knock it around and decide what's good, bad, and terrible. and then we'll just build it, because it's supremely significant for me that we move from theory into practice. So the only way to do that is to take this meet and greet session, because most of us have never met, didn't even know what we look like. I have no idea what Lisa looks like. Then we'll take all of these sketches and what should we call them? Fledgling proposals, and turn them into something that we can all use. So thank you. Oh, there she is. Lisa's there. Oh, she's disappeared. That was just, if you missed it, then too bad. There she is again. Please expect from me some distillation of what we've been talking about, and then you can tell me whether it's terrible or whether it's something we can move to use to move forward with. And it'll go up on the listserv. But if it turns out that a DAC makes more sense, or any other platform, that's where it will go. So thank you so much to everybody for being here. I apologize. I can see already it's very dark where Ursula is. But thank you to anybody who was inconvenienced by being here, because given that we live on a spherical object, there's never going to be one time that suits everybody. There are some nice closing words from people. I'm waiting for someone to stick up a message and say, that was the worst 90 minutes I ever had in my life. But in the meantime, please expect something from me, and jump onto the listserv and tell us what you do and do not want to see. And that's the way that we can make something that everybody can use. Okay, so on that, I'll just say goodbye to everybody, and I'll see you in a textual, non-visual form very, very soon. Okay, bye.